Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Let's Play some Age of Wonders Planetfall. This is a sponsored video. Paradox Interactive was kind enough to reach out to me to ask me to do a video on this game, and so here we are, we're doing a video on the game. If you're watching this video, that means the game has released. The game is out today, the 6th of August 2019, and if you want to get a copy of it for yourself, go ahead and just click the link in the description of this video to jump on over to the Steam store and grab it. So let's go ahead and get this scenario set up. I have a setup already in mind, so we're just going to go with the Imperial world, which is like the default sort of random map, and we're just going to make some changes to the game flow. We're going to set it to very fast, very high, and strong starting units. This will just mean that things progress a little bit quicker, we have a little bit more resources to start with, and we have a few more units, so we can kind of get through the early game a little bit quicker and show off some of the mid-game stuff, and maybe even just like the early late game in this video. I will say, however, like, do keep that in mind. If you're looking at this gameplay and seeing it, just do remember that I did change some settings about the gameplay, just for the sake of being able to show off a little bit more in a little bit less time. I'm also going to go ahead and plug in just a medium landmass and Pangea, just so everybody's on the same continent, so we can get some interactions going. And then I'm going to go ahead and select and build my commander. Yes, you can actually build your own commander in this game, which is a part of the game that I am a big fan of. I've already made a couple of different guys because I was experimenting with it. There's me myself, there's PotatoMcWhiskey. This was the Vanguard Xenoplague guy that I made. He's pretty cool. He starts with like a support vehicle, and he's a veteran and all that sort of good stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and make a brand new unit. Not a unit, sorry, a hero. So you can obviously pick which race you want to be. You can be the Vanguard, you can be the Kirko, the Syndicate, the Amazons, or the Devourer. I'm going to play the Vanguard today. I'm sure there'll be other people doing gameplay videos if you want to see the other factions and stuff like that. And we're going to be using the Vanguard with the where is it? The Promethean thing, because the Vanguard have the firearms weapon group and the laser weapons group, and both of those are kinetic and thermal respectively, which are the exact things that Promethean is really good at. They're really good at buffing up your kinetic and thermal damage. So Promethean, I feel, works really well with the Vanguard. So I'm going to pick these two, but I could take any other one. Like I could take Cynumbria if I wanted to have more of an ethereal slash psionic based build, or Xenoplague if I wanted to do biological damage and even turn enemy units into zombies and turn them into, like, you know, like broodlings that can evolve and all that sort of stuff. You could even do Void Tech, which is kind of like phasing out of reality, which does have some overlap with me. It uses arc and kinetic damage, so I can probably convert some of my damage to arc and all that kind of stuff. The Void Tech is really, really good for like teleporting enemies around and teleporting your own units around. You can also go for Celestian, which is kind of like psionically, you know, outer verse. You know, you communicate with the god of, you know, the universe or whatever it is, to give yourself like ethereal and magical powers. It's a pretty cool one. Then you've got Synthesis, which is kind of like, you know, your people have merged with an AI, and you can do all sorts of things like, you know, control enemy units, you can hack them, you can debuff mechanical units, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. But we're going to go ahead and play with the Promethean, and I think we're going to go ahead and take Skilled Diplomat, Data Repository, and Promethean Assault Equipment. I really, really, really like this setup because Skilled Diplomat gives you extra relations with all the other races, which means you have an easier time conquering them. You also get Fast Talker, which means you save a lot of influence if you need to bribe enemy armies out of the way. You also get Data Repository, which lets you start with 2 random techs, which can, you know, be pretty okay, or it can be amazing if you hit some of the right techs. Like, for example, weapon upgrades. Straight off the bat, you can upgrade your units on turn 1 and then immediately start steamrolling people. The Promethean Assault Equipment is really, really cool because it has thermal damage, and my hero can kind of go up this thermal damage, sort of teleporting around the battlefield doing damage pathway, which I think is really awesome. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a Vice. I think I'm going to avoid playing with a Vice. I think that's a bit of a more advanced sort of player thing, and I want to avoid sort of making things look too complicated, so we'll just kind of play with standard, you know, basic buffs and debuffs. Now, I mean, you could say this guy looks goofy, and you'd be right, because he was intentionally designed to look a little bit goofy, because it's me, it's PotatoMcWhiskey, and we are orange and white. So let's go ahead and just jump into the game. All right, so I wonder where we landed. It looks like we're landing in the snow. And I feel like snow is pretty well set up, if I remember correctly, for doing sciencey kind of stuff. So I might open with a science-heavy build here. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty heavily set up for science. So what I'm going to do is I will focus on getting this city growing as fast as possible. So I'm going to focus everything on food. I'm going to build a central biofarm, which will give me extra food. And I will also focus all of my citizens on the food production. This is like your city management screen. You build your units over here. You build your buildings and, you know, convert your production into energy or science or whatever. I think you unlock that a little bit later. Then you can also do stuff with sectors. As your city grows in size, you can annex different sectors to your city and then turn them into productive places. For example, you can make science in them. You can make energy in them. You can kind of specialized, and we'll talk about that once we get there. And then this is how you manage your population. Managing your population is actually quite in-depth in this game compared to other Age of Wonders games. You can like kind of manually assign citizens back forth to different areas, or you can have it auto-assign and then just select priorities. Say like, oh, I want to focus on food and production, so they'll split between those. And you can also share food between cities, but we'll talk about that a little bit later once we get into it. So starting off, you're going to start with an army. You'll probably start with a smaller army. Remember, I gave myself a larger army in this game, just for the purpose of being able to demonstrate. So I'm going to send my two little owls here off in different directions to do a bit of exploration for me, so we can learn about maybe where there is some treasure to pick up, all that kind of stuff. So over here, the game is recommending that I go try and claim this sector, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll keep this guy in my capital as a defensive unit. I'll have him stack guarding. I like to run around with a stack of 6 if I can in the early game. I think that's a reasonable amount, and this guy will just act as a reserve.
The sea is a maiden of many moods, most of them murderous.
And that's the really cool thing about this game as well, is every time you unlock a technology, you get like a little blurb, kind of reminiscent of Civ 4 or Civ 5 or Alpha Centauri. Whenever you would research a technology, you would get a kind of cool like quote. Sometimes they were funny, sometimes they were philosophical. In this, they kind of lean towards funny, but they're kind of clever funny. They're not silly. I kind of felt like, as much as I love Civilization 6 as a game, I felt like the quotes in that game were leaned a little bit too heavily on the silly side. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that one. You know, money. God, if I ever have to hear that money phrase again, I'll actually lose it. But yeah, let's go ahead and end the turn here. This particular battle should be very, very easy, so I'm just going to auto-combat it until I find a battle that's a little bit more difficult. I don't think there's really much of a point me fighting a battle like that. Sweet, so now that my capital city reached enough population to annex a sector, I'm going to go ahead and use this army to annex it for Milton. Or Minton, not Milton. Milton is a different thing. Milton is a nerd's name anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can fight this. This is what we call a... I don't know the exact word for these, but I want to say they're like raiding marauders. You can see that there's white marauders over here. These ones tend to stay put. They stay in the one place and they kind of defend whatever they're standing on. So for example, these guys are defending a research station. These red marauders will periodically spawn marauders and send them to attack you. So you want to clear out these red colored nests as fast as you possibly can. Ooh, I found a crashed research ship and grabbed myself a little bit of technology. That's quite nice. The world is quite detailed and there's a lot of interesting stuff to find. For example, here is a cache, a bit like a goodie hut. This has some production that will be shunted over to the closest city. And actually, I can choose production here. So you can see my city is growing very, very rapidly, which will mean that the happiness in here will deplete very rapidly. So I'm going to defocus food right now because I don't want to grow too quickly, or my people will get very, very unhappy with me until I can at least unlock the recreational dome. Although I am about to unlock it, so I guess my people can suffer a little bit. Now, after I focus on food, I'm going to focus on science because I want to unlock as many technologies as I can for you guys so you can see as much of the cool stuff you can do in this game. So you can see here we have annexed Galaxis Mons towards Minton, and actually it's population 8 now, so we could even annex another sector. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to annex another sector for Minton because I want to upgrade my units. I just unlocked nanite injectors with nanite support technology, which allows me to also deploy some tactical operations, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and create a new template for these units. I'm going to slot in these nanite injectors and then mod the unit. So we're going to mod this unit and we will call it the Refreshed. I like that the game always picks like an appropriate thumbnail and name for your unit, and you can always refresh them like Hardy or Replenished, or for example, let's see, there's a couple of the ones. I think there's a stim based one, but we'll call this one the we'll call it the Hardy, right? Because they've got this really cool ability, the nanite injectors. Not only does this give them +1 armor, which reduces the amount of damage they take, except for psionic damage, which pierces armor, but that's a whole other thing. We'll talk about damage types maybe another day. But this nanite injector's ability allows these soldiers to heal themselves for 15 health and increase their resistance to all damage for by 3 for 2 turns. So this is a really good ability for keeping your troops alive in the early game and letting them get up to the higher levels, which will give them more health and more damage. So let's go ahead and modify basically everyone with these nanite injectors, because I want to try to keep people alive. The longer you can keep people alive, the more experience they get, and then the more effective they are going to be with higher level modules. So I'm going to go ahead and create a replenished version of the Pug as well, and a replenished version of the Assault Bike. This will be the stim-fueled Assault Bike. And then I'm going to also put a nanite injector on my hero here, just to keep him healthy. And just in this way, I have like an extra little bit of defense that I can fall back on. It means I can play a little bit more aggressively and not worry about my people dying, which is always a nice thing. Now, I did just unlock the colony upgrade and the colonizer, and those are things that I'm going to want to get. Now, for example, this city is very, very unhappy. So let's go ahead and prioritize getting our hands on the recreational dome. What this will do is it will provide a way to get extra happiness and also jobs for entertainers. Although I'm not sure what they call it. I think they just call them happiness slots. But yeah, we'll plug in a little bit of extra happiness. We're growing a very big city with a lot of tech, and we have an unexploited sector. Now, this particular sector, it's saying that it recommends to go for agricultural, but none of this sector's bonuses go towards agriculture. Only this overgrown biodome really does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prioritize building a research exploitation in here. And I'll do the same thing for this one. If I can get both of these research exploitation areas up. Oh, actually, this one should be production. Oh, that's a mistake. Let me go ahead and cancel that and set this one to production, because in the long term, this has 2 cog wheels, which means it's well set up for a production sector. So I'll turn that into a production sector, and then perhaps I'll make this one a science sector, and then maybe another one into a science sector later on. And the reason why I went over here to clean this up and grab this from my city instead of attacking this is because the turn that you upgrade a unit, it's actually weakened. So you want to kind of like upgrade your unit somewhere where you won't be attacked. Oh, cool. It looks like we found a teleporter. Let's go into it. And it took me all the way over here. That's cool. So I have like a vertical teleporter that teleports my units from this area to this area. So I can kind of, you know, get across the map a little bit quicker now. It kind of compresses the size of my empire. That's nice. I'm going to want to try to have that inside my borders. Let's go ahead and pick up this production stash. That'll give me a little bit of a production boost and hopefully finish this recreation dome a little bit quicker as well. Looks like there's another stash over here we can grab. Oh, cool. I found the Psyfish. I'm going to go ahead and tell them that I am coming in peace. And I will accept their quest to kill some autonom units. Now, these guys are all the way up here, so I will need to build another army or move these guys up in that direction. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and... Ooh, I want to fight these guys, but there's 2 armies here now. You can see they actually spawned a marauder group. I'm going to go ahead and wait here for a turn to see where these guys go and then see if I can clean them up. We did just pick up subjugation ordnance, which allows us to, for example, on these soldiers, add another module to them. This will inflict bleeding whenever they shoot someone. It'll also give them a little bit of extra damage here. You can see here, allows the unit to fire flechette ammunition, which has an 8 chance to inflict bleeding. I can't remember exactly how the 8 chance works. I don't know if that's like a dice roll or something. I feel like 8, it's like 8 out of 12 or something. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I wish I did know exactly how those numbers worked. But basically, this will allow this unit to inflict bleeding damage, which increases the enemy's vulnerability to kinetic damage, which is the type of damage that this unit does. So I'm going to go ahead and mod these units, and they will be the barbed units, so they can be a little bit stronger. Now, they will be weak this turn, so I might try to like just back up away from these to discourage them from attacking me. I'm going to go ahead and also prime the Frontier Survival Doctrine, which will give me plus 15 food in all of my colonies, allowing me to grow even faster and get to my maximum potential even quicker, so I can grab as many sectors as possible. Cool, so we found a stash and it actually gave us a few choices. So for example, if we wanted to, we can power up the autonom monitor. This would be quite good to do if we actually found the autonom monitor, the autonom species. It's basically like a minor faction you can find on the map. Yeah, for this case, I'm going to use this for reputation because reputation can be quite hard to get. And basically what it does is it makes you more look better to the AI, so they're more likely to give you good deals and stuff like that. So I'll just take the reputation. I can actually communicate with the Psyfish if I want. So for example, I could bribe them to leave this location if I wanted to take this abandoned quarry for myself. I don't think I need to do that, so I'll just kind of leave them alone. But I do know where their capital city is. I'm trying to remember where it is. Yeah, here it is. It's right here. This is the Sci-Fish capital city. And if I go in here, once I get enough relationship with them, I can actually start buying stuff off them. I can start buying these chrysalis units, which if you get them enough experience, they will actually turn into a bigger, more important and more dangerous unit. I can also get some spawns off them. I can get the Mantra of Illusion. These are like unit mods. There's doctrines. And you can also eventually take control of the city itself once you have enough relation with them. And even get units like the Medusa, which are kind of crazy. I don't know if we'll get a chance to show you guys that today, but definitely in a follow-up let's play we will be checking those out. Ooh, we found another crashed research ship and pick up 18 extra research. I mean, 18 research isn't a whole lot, but it's a lot more than 0, so I'm happy to take it. Alright, so it looks like these marauders are trying to head over towards Galaxis Mons to take that on, so I'm going to go ahead and swing in and see if we can fight a battle with them. Now that I've upgraded my units, just for the sake of being able to show off their upgrades, I'm going to go ahead and manually fight this. So when you're the attacker, the enemy player gets to move first, which, you know, it can be a little bit annoying, but it's quite helpful when you're the one being attacked and you get to set your units up for a good second turn. So in the case of this battle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and set my infantry up in an overwatch position covering each other so that when these flying units come in, they'll take a significant amount of damage. Oh, that wasn't the button I meant to press. I want to put you on Overwatch. And you can see they kind of have cones of fire when they're overwatching. And, you know, it's kind of like any sort of battle you might expect from some, like a game like Master of Magic, like back in the day. I think these games have a lot in common. And your units have like a lot of different abilities. So, for example, I can choose their facing because the facing of the unit actually matters a lot. Because if a unit can get behind the facing of your unit, I think it's... in the cone behind them, you can actually take extra damage, which is a pretty big deal, because I think it's an actual significant amount of damage you can take extra. I'm going to go ahead and add Blur Cloud to my hero unit here, which will increase his evasion and make him harder to hit. And then I'll just get him to also go into defense mode alongside these units so they're even harder to hit. So you can, if I look in here, you can see he's in defense mode, which gives him a 25% chance to not be hit, or makes him 25% harder to hit. And Obscured gives him an extra 40% evasion, or he's 40% harder to hit. So that's a total of 65 evasion. And when you consider, like, a fairly standard attack would be somewhere between like 80 and 70, you know, accuracy. That's like the majority of the accuracy an enemy might have. Looks like these guys triggered my Overwatch, which is pretty nice. Basically get a free attack where they're not in defense mode or behind cover. In fact, we almost killed this guy in a single turn with our Overwatch. But he obviously thought it would be worth it to run up, because I'm wondering if he's going to swoop both of my units here. Oh, we get another Overwatch on this guy, and it's a double shot Overwatch. This guy's almost dead as well, which is excellent. So he did a swoop on our hero, so he does a bit of damage, and he also moves beyond him and picks up a defense mode for himself, so he's actually harder to kill. These guys missed, which I'm pretty happy about. I'm going to speed up the battle now. So these guys were bleeding and they detonated because that's one of their special abilities. If I go in here, I can show you. You see here the Beetle Death Rattle. When this unit explodes, it deals 8 damage, destroying 1 armor and causing high impact to all adjacent units. I believe high impact is basically stagger. If your unit gets staggered, they can't act as many times the next turn. You can see here this laser bike does stagger damage. In fact, I'm going to try and show you what the stagger damage can look like. So let's see if we can get a healthy flank on these guys. So if you see these 3 bars underneath their health bar, once I shoot them and I get a hit, I'll push them back. But also, you can see here, they now only have 2 bars. And what that means is I've actually hurt the unit in a way to where their movement next turn will be reduced. And staggering is a pretty big deal, especially on infantry versus infantry battles, because you need to start cutting down how many actions your opponents get. So I'm just going to see if the Pug can kill the Shrike. Alright, looks like the Pug missed, which kind of sucks. So maybe the hero can get him. Alright, the hero managed to pick him up. I do want to take this guy out. What I could do is I could drop a Shredder Bomb on him and that would kill him. Now, the Shredder Bomb is a tactical operation. Your tactical operations, if any of you guys played Age of Wonders 3, it's basically your combat spells, right? These are things you can place in a battle to do damage or assist your units. So for example, I could place this nanite support station, which at the start of my turn heals all adjacent units for 10 health, and it also gives the adjacent units the obscured buff. And, you know, if you remember from earlier, the obscured buff is a 40% evasion buff. So this unit is really, or this spell rather, essentially creates a unit that makes your other units much harder to kill. In this case, I'm going to use the Shredder Bomb, which is like a direct damage ability that inflicts some kinetic damage and also can inflict bleeding. And bleeding makes your units take more kinetic damage. So that's a nice little bit of synergy with my troops, because they also inflict bleeding, and I believe bleeding can stack. I might be wrong on that one though. Yeah, so if I go in here, you can kind of see he's got bleeding. Bleeding means that he takes extra damage from kinetic weapons, and he also takes 5 damage every turn. Anyway, enough faffing about. Let's go ahead and kill this guy. And there he is, he's dead. So that's our first actual tactical battle. Most of the battles you're going to engage with in the early game are going to be fairly easy, but that's mostly because you're kind of not really getting much out of them. Like, I got a little bit of experience there, so you can see these guys are now novices, which means they have 4 more health, which means they're a little bit harder to kill. But yeah, most of the stuff, you're not really getting a whole lot early game. What you're really going to want to be looking out for is stuff like this. Where is it? Well, basically, there's these like landmarks around the map. I don't see one right now, which is kind of odd. Yeah, you can see over here. This is a landmark. This is a bronze landmark. And typically, these things are well defended and they have huge bonuses. So, for example, this is a bronze landmark, which is one of the weakest types of landmarks. This one will give you plus 20 food and an extra 2 food jobs in the city that annexes this territory. It'll also give you access to a unique building, the nutrition center in the Imperial Biodome compound, and then you can also just normally build the regular sector upgrades to this as well. So these monuments or landmarks are really, really valuable when you're expanding your empire. Unfortunately, I didn't actually spawn next to a monument or landmark as far as I can tell, and I thought you usually did spawn next to one, but I guess I was mistaken. Over here in my city, I built the recreational dome, which gives my colony plus 2 happiness and plus 4 happiness income, which means I have more people who can work the happiness slots. I am going to need to get the other type of happiness boosting building, and I can't remember where that is on the tech tree. It's over here by environmental conditioning, the botanical gardens. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up so that I continue to grow this city really, really big and keep the people inside here very happy. Alright, so we beat this battle and we managed to pick up an Imperial Rifle. This is a hero weapon. I'm going to go ahead and take this reward. Normally I would sell that because I don't really mind that much. But if I go in here, you can see there's the shop and the arsenal. And the shop are things that I have unlocked and can produce essentially or buy. And the arsenal is things that I have found or looted. You can see this is a tier 2 Imperial Rifle. And we can kind of compare this weapon to the weapon we have equipped right now. Right now we're using a tier 2 Purifier gun, which has a single action 20 damage, 5 range, incendiary attack or thermal attack that has a chance to apply burning to all of the units that it affects. Now we could trade that for an Imperial Rifle, which has a range of 7, does 11 damage, can attack up to 3 times, and has a 90% accuracy, and also has the ability to go into Overwatch. I think though, just for the sake of sticking with the whole Promethean Purifier thing, I'm going to stick with the Purifier gun on my hero, and I'm actually going to look for like hero upgrades that will fit with that. So I'm going to go ahead and take Fallout Protocols here. This will give the entire army plus 2 thermal resistance. Thermal resistance is pretty good because if I come up against another hero who is using Promethean weaponry, I'll actually do pretty well against him. Unfortunately, in the course of that battle, I did actually lose one of my Vanguard troopers, so I'm going to have to upgrade another one. Thankfully, we did have one laying around. Here's what I made earlier and so on and so forth. So we'll just make that guy into another one of these and then get him to merge up so we can keep exploring and killing stuff. Nice, so we picked up electromagnetic utilization, which will allow us to actually do some neat stuff. Oh, I found another player. I'm going to go ahead and tell him to stay out of my way. I kind of want to go to war with people. So I'll have the negative diplomatic interaction with him so we can kind of push towards warfare. But the cool thing is now I have some new stuff that I can actually equip to my people. So if I go in here to my unit production and I manage and start a new Vanguard base template, I can actually give them the Electrocution Ammunition, and this is mutually exclusive with the Flechette Ammunition, since the Flechette Ammunition inflicts bleeding, and bleeding enhances kinetic attack, whereas the Electrified Ammunition has an 8 strength chance to inflict electrified on cyborg and mechanical units. So basically how it boils down to is The Flechette is good against cyborg / biological units, and the Electrified is good against cyborg / mechanical units. Cyborgs are kind of halfway between biological and mechanical. That's why each one of these applies to both. However, cyborgs have some of their own inbuilt advantages. I think they have like built-in resistances, and they can be healed by either biological or mechanical healing. So they have a lot of advantages in that way, but they are vulnerable because they will get negative penalties applied, or not negative penalties. They can have negative status effects applied to them that normal sort of biological or mechanical units wouldn't be able to. So for example, I could design a completely new unit that doesn't even use these nanite injectors. I could make a unit that is purely offensive. I could give them this electrified ammunition, which will increase the amount of damage they do by 10%. It'll also change their damage to arc damage. If you look over here, you can actually see the change happen. If I unequip, you can see that symbol means kinetic damage, and if I equip the electrified ammunition, it becomes arc damage, which does more damage to mechanical units. Mechanical units have a vulnerability to arc damage. So this would be essentially kind of the equivalent of having rocket trooper infantry, right? These are the kind of infantry that would be good against sort of heavy tanks and stuff like that. It's a little bit, you know, not exactly that, but they're just slightly better at like mechanical and stuff like that. And I also gave them rail accelerators, which improves their accuracy by 10% and gives them +1 range and increases their damage by 10%. So these guys become very long-ranged units. I think their default range is 7, and now they're ranged 8, and they're also doing 20% bonus damage thanks to having these two modules. If I wanted to make them a little bit stronger in terms of defense, I could give them the nanite injectors. However, that would make them a little bit more expensive. So you can kind of see how even with just a handful of modules, you can actually have a diversity of unit builds, and you can kind of tailor the units based on your needs and based on how many resources you have. Like for example, a unit with 2 modules only costs 10 cosmite, at least if it's a tier 1 unit. I think tier 2 units take 6 cosmite per mod. Don't hold me to that, I can't remember off the top of my head. But you can see how I could be like, well, you know what, I just need like some cheap people with arc damage, so I'll just make these guys with a single electrified ammunition mod. Or I'll be like, well, you know what, having the extra range would be nice. It would also make them do more damage and all that sort of stuff. So you have a lot of really options, and we're only a few turns into the game, right? We've only unlocked a couple of modules. Now what I'm going for right now is my favorite module in the game, and that is the ammunition fireburst, which gives your units an 8 strength chance to set enemies on fire, but also 50% of their damage is dealt to adjacent units. So this essentially turns all of your units into like just a horrifying, terrifying rolling barrage, destroying the entire landscape, which is something that is really satisfying to me. Cool, so we got our very first hero join offer. This is Jennifer Zhu, and we can recruit her. She's a level 1 Vanguard hero. We can also request another hero. I didn't mean to actually click that button. I meant to accept her. God damn it, I'm an idiot. Oh well, I guess we'll just pick up a bit of energy over here. You know, you can see the map is actually quite large, considering we only set this to a medium-sized map. You know, there's an awful lot of room to build plenty of cities and, you know, doing a lot of, you know, construction and all that sort of stuff. This is pretty cool. We actually ran into what looks like the remains of a Devourer Colony. And so what I can do here is I can either attack them and try to kill them, or I can try to convince them to join me. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and convince these guys to join me, and they're going to try and turn this settlement into a colony. Bada bing, bada boom. So now I just got a new city. By spending my diplomatic influence, I convinced some neutral parties to join my empire, and we're going to have a second city over here. Now, the really cool thing about this is because this was a Devourer you know, settlement when I annexed it, it stays a Devourer city. So now I have access to Devourer technology. I can, you know, build Devourer units. If I go into the tech tree, for example, and swing over to the military side of things, if I go up here onto the top, I can actually research Devourer technology. I can get, you know, perimeter security, I can get drudges, I can unlock the aerial ramjet, I can unlock the, you know, ironclad, the Baron. So now I actually have full access to another civilization's technology, which is really, really cool. It's probably not super useful, although trenchers are really, really good. I'm just gonna say that right now. Trenchers may actually be overpowered once you get their proper upgrades, especially if you were to give them rail accelerators, which gave them range and stuff like that. These units are crazy good. I'm just gonna say that, right? They're really, really good. They're really good, considering that they're basic infantry. They have 35 health, they have 7 range with 16 damage. They also have the ability to entrench, which makes them incredibly difficult to kill. They essentially create omnidirectional cover around themselves. And you can get an upgrade in the Devourer tech tree right here. Fortification tools, which allows them to heal health per turn and makes their fortified trenches even better. But anyway, that's enough about the Devourer. I think the Devourer are my favorite faction aside from the Vanguard. But yeah, now we just have another city, but this one is different because it's a Devourer city. And if we take a look at the terrain around here, it looks like we've got a good production area, although it does have a geothermal instability, which is something we're going to need to research some technology and have an army over here to get rid of this. We've also got a marauder den here. So I think what I'm going to do in this city is just build some local defenses. I'm going to build standardized military infrastructure, which will basically increase the power of the colonial troops defending this city. All right, excellent. We finally got access to the fire burst ammunition. This is so much fun to use. I'm going to go ahead and plug these into my units and then see if I can find a nice battle to show them off. I no longer need your flechette ammunition. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the fire burst ammo. These are now known as the incendiary type troopers. Oh, cool. Now that we have a Devourer city, I think we got a Devourer hero join request. I'm going to go ahead and recruit this guy. I'm going to keep him in the capital because I actually have a really interesting building in my capital. That is the Combat Simulation Center. So any unit that is stationed in or around my capital will get 2 experience per turn, which means in about 4 turns, this guy is going to level up, which will allow me to give him some new abilities. I don't know if I'm going to keep him with the hand mortar. I'll see what I'll do with him once he levels up. Cool, we met another Amazonian person. This guy I'm going to go ahead and see if I can make friendly relations with. So I'll give them the friendly greeting and I'll go into pronouncements and go ahead and give them a compliment. And then in a couple of turns when they're ready for diplomacy, I'll go ahead and see if they want to engage in a non-aggression pact. The only thing is you're not able to actually do that kind of stuff the turn that you meet somebody. So for example, I have to wait 2 turns before they'll accept a new diplomatic state. But that's totally fine. We will try to make friends with the Amazons. Oh, it looks like the Scyfish are giving me a mission. They're looking for some diplomatic robes so they can better engage in diplomacy. I will get some relations bonus and I'll also get my hands on some influence as well as a Scyfish Chrysalis. The Chrysalis is a very interesting unit. I wish I could show you it, but I'll have to do this quest and then I'll be able to show you what it can do. So interestingly enough, that mission they gave me is actually a construction mission, i.e. they want me to actually build something in my colony, and that's it right here. They want me to build diplomatic robes, and they can kind of give you a quest that all of your cities can contribute towards at the same time. So I think the biggest one I ever got was 800 production cost. I think they can get bigger. I don't know if they can. I think it was around 800 production, and I got 2 of my cities to work on it. So you can kind of collaborate on these things, so you don't have to have one single really powerful city to make it in time for the quest. But I think it is a really cool idea that the little factions will give you like missions to kill things, or maybe they'll demand resources from you, or maybe they'll demand some other kind of quest. It is cool that they do have a lot of requests, and that this is translatable into sort of relationship with them, which then allows you to buy stuff from them in the form of like maybe you want some of their units, maybe you want some of their mods, and also just having a higher relation with them in general, I think gives you energy. I know it gives you influence, but I don't know if it gives you energy. I think it gives you energy as well to sort of simulate that you're trading with them or whatever. Oh no, my new colony is actually under attack. I'm gonna have to do some manual combat to defend this. It looks like some marauding units came in to fight me. I'm pretty sure I can hold this off with a manual defense, as long as I play very defensively and use my spells to my advantage. So let's get these guys up into the fortification areas. Right there, and then I'll have my prospector hang out in the middle in defense mode, and these guys are going to similarly go into defense mode and let them approach us. Next turn, I'll get the advantage of being able to start dropping tactical nukes on their heads.
Operations available.
I love it when they group up like this because they make it so much more effective to drop stuff like shredder bombs on them. I will drop a shredder bomb because it has a high chance to bleed, and it'll also stagger them and do damage. This is a great way, if you're at a disadvantage in a battle, use your tactical spells, get these guys bleeding, and now that they're bleeding, if I go in here, they're actually going to take more kinetic damage, and they're taking damage over time, and my guys do kinetic damage, so it's just entirely in my advantage to do what I just did and make it so that my enemies are easier to kill. I'm actually going to move these guys forward and then create a new entrenched position. That's their ability. So basically they can move forward, create a trench, and then still attack. And that's like the power of the Devourer unit. That's why I love these units so much. And if I get into trouble here, I can always just fall them back to there. Alright, let's keep shooting. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and keep this Prospector in position. The Prospector is kind of a scout unit. It can be upgraded pretty well to do a lot of stuff in combat. I think these guys are going to dive at me. Yeah, there it is. Alright, they took a spit at me. I'm going to go to 3x speed to kind of speed this up a little bit. So, unfortunately, these guys are adjacent to my units. So they have what's called melee overwatch. And what that means is, if there's a unit adjacent to them, they will attack that unit if that unit tries to move away or do a ranged attack action, for example. So what I need to do is stagger them. So I'm going to go ahead and use this toss bomb ability, which will stagger this unit, cancel its melee overwatch, allow me to run away into the fortified ground, and then take a shot at them and hopefully kill them. Okay, we didn't quite get the kill, but I'm pretty sure I can't quite finish them off with this. I'll just take a shot at these guys, and it didn't land. So I'm going to use a Shredder Bomb to finish this guy off, because I just need to reduce how much damage they're going to do to me. The closer the unit is, the higher the threat it is. So I figured I may as well drop the bomb on the guy who's the closest to me. Okay, so they're leaping on my dudes, which is not ideal. Let's focus fire. I'm going to go ahead and try to take out this guy first. And we're going to go ahead and use our melee attack. This will stagger and bash. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll stagger him. We push them back out of cover and stagger them. And then we're going to go ahead and drop a Shredder Bomb on his head to finish him off.
Enemy kill.
Awesome. Now that is costing me 25 energy every time I drop a Shredder Bomb, but it's absolutely worth it to keep this city safe. So let's drop another grenade on this guy's head. We cancelled his melee overwatch and we staggered him. Let's go ahead and move up to here and then drop a trench and see if we can't land a shot. Nice, we've got 8 damage. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that final Shredder Bomb to get this battle finished. Woo! The Shredder Bomb is like one of my favorite abilities in the game because it's just a consistent little bit of damage here, provides a bit of stagger, which means the enemy do less damage the next turn. It's just such a really flexible and powerful ability, and you can get access to it really early in the game. In fact, it's one of the first things you can unlock when you're playing the Vanguard. Okay, this is where my troopers get ridiculous. So let me go ahead and show you the synergy that we have built here. So if we look here at these guys, they have nanite injectors, which gives them armor and allows them to heal themselves as well as give them damage resistance. So this is like their survival slot. This is the thing that keeps them alive. Then they've also got ammunition fire burst, which means they have an 8 strength chance to set enemies on fire, and they do 50% of their damage to adjacent units when they attack. They also do 20% more damage on all of their abilities and all of their attacks. Now I'm going to plug in the thermal targeting relay, which gives them 10% base accuracy, as well as another 10% accuracy and another 20% damage against units that are burning or immolated. These guys inflict burning with their attacks, so they can essentially inflict burning and then do more damage. And not only that, but each unit can benefit from the burning inflicted by the other. So like focusing fire with these guys now is ridiculous. They're going to have incredibly high damage and incredibly high accuracy. This is a combo I really like to run fairly early as the Vanguard. I kind of beeline it. I think it's really, really powerful. You can make these troopers just ridiculously powerful, and they can serve you well for a very long time. I'm also going to plug the thermal targeting relay onto my hero, and that'll give him just that little bit more accuracy and damage, and it'll also allow him to synergize with these troopers as well. I'm also going to plug in the thermal targeting relay on my regular bike units because there is a laser that I want to plug into these next as well. If I go into the military technology, there is a heavy laser application which also gives laser weapons the ability to inflict burning. So now all of my units, once I have that thermal upgrade, can inflict burning and also are more accurate and do more damage to units who are burning. So this is like an army just completely designed to set enemies on fire and then completely annihilate them because they're on fire. It's a way of playing that I really, really enjoy when I'm playing the Vanguard. So there we have heavy laser applications, which gives me the incinerator module. So if I plug these into my laser units, which is my little pug here that has a blast laser, I'll plug in that incinerator module. Now he does 23 damage when he attacks. He is weakened this turn because, you know, the turn that you modify a unit, they'll be weaker. But I'm going to go ahead and get this, like, super powerful early game unit set up. So now these guys they inflict burn, they do more damage against burning targets, and they can heal themselves and increase their own resistances. Next turn, I'm going to go ahead and engage in a battle and really show these off. And the really cool thing is I can unlock Purifier Cores next. These are like basically flamethrowers. They kind of work like my hero. They automatically inflict burning, so I don't need to upgrade them with extra burning damage. I can just give them this heat upgrade and a bunch of defensive upgrades and just kind of throw them at the enemy, doing like tons of damage. It's a lot of fun to use these Purifier units. Basically, think of them like flamethrowers. I can also pick up some engineering units. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Engineer Core. Alright, cool. So we built those things for the Psi-Fish, which means we get that 10 relationship as well as the 15 influence and the Psi-Fish Chrysalis. Now, the really, really cool thing about the Psi-Fish Chrysalis is it actually upgrades once it reaches a certain experience level. You have to get it to rank Prime, but the really cool thing is I have that building that passively gives me experience. So essentially I can trade 4 gold per turn to turn this Psi-Fish over the course of 20 turns into like an extremely powerful unit, which I think is pretty cool. Oh, the other hand, I could just like, you know, give them some upgrades and actually use them in battle. And that's what we will do. Once they've leveled up a little bit. I'm a little bit worried about Psi-Fish. They don't have a whole lot of health, so I do like to get them to like level 2 and maybe give them a defensive upgrade, something that maybe boosts their health or their armor, so they're not just so vulnerable, because they are pretty weak. Now, in fairness, oh shoot, I just found a Psi-Fish Hunter. I'm going to go ahead and take that Psi-Fish Hunter for sure. And I'm going to annex this sector for Minton. But now, in fairness, these guys are ethereal, which means they have a bunch of resistance to, sort of innate resistance to non-psionic or thermal damage. But they're still kind of like, they're really squishy. They don't have a whole lot of armor. So I'm very worried about these units. So I like to have some proper upgrades before I start using these guys in the field. So I like to just keep them parked in over here where they're getting a little bit of passive experience. Anyway, the time has come to really show off this like absolutely ridiculous ability of these units to not only ignite units on fire, but deal like stupid amounts of damage to units that are on fire. In fact, I would feel pretty confident that I could go into like a silver or gold landmark, which is kind of like the late game, well, not late game, but sort of mid to late game NPC stuff that you can take on. I would be pretty confident that I could definitely clear a silver with this army and maybe a gold depending on what the Titan or big units that were in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get our guys up into defensive positions. I do have to be careful because these guys do have a AoE attack, so I want to avoid being next to each other. I could take a shot here, and you know what? A 45% chance to get a hit and inflict burning is definitely worth it. Similarly, over here, I'm going to take the 45% chance to hit this guy. Nice, and we inflicted burning and did 25 damage. Can you see why I was talking about how like crazy strong these guys are? Like, sure, this is the opening turn of the game, and I've already done stupid amounts of damage. Now, these guys are kind of heavily melee-based, these psychos. They tend to run up and attack people in melee, and so does this truck. So I'm going to use my final 2 infantry that have the ability to overwatch. Just kind of watch out for these guys running up. I'm also going to use my pug in a defensive position to give my hero the obscured ability, which will mean he's less likely to get hit. And I'm going to bring this motorcycle up around the flank to maybe get used in the next turn. Like, this is only the first turn, and I've already half killed one of their units. Like, that's pretty nuts. Just wait until I unleash the damage. In fact, these guys don't really have enough health for me to properly unleash my damage on them. Alright, so he moved up. He's going to rocket me. Now, he did hit me with 11 damage and stun me. Ooh, makeshift turret is pretty rough. Here comes the Overwatch. Alright, nice. Did a nice chunk of damage. And another Overwatch. Very nice.
Operations available.
So this guy took a whole bunch of damage. Uh-oh. Well, all I gotta do now is click the nanite injectors button. Bada bing, bada boom. He's basically back up to 75% health and still ready to fight. And here's the best part of this build. Look at this. AoE damage. They can shoot one unit and do damage to both. Oh man, I love this build so much. Because once they set someone on fire, they do more damage to them. It's like, it's such a cool little synergy that's like built into the game. It might be a little bit overpowered in the early game. I'm sure there's stuff that you can do to counter it, like getting flame resistance. There are things you can do to sort of reduce the amount of fire damage you're taking. Oh, and because these are spacer units, they actually drop this thing called an effigy, which basically just buffs allied units. It only has one single health, but basically every turn it'll give a random unit plus 25% damage, which is kind of cool. Oh my god, look at that. 23 damage on a single shot from a assault bike. I don't think you can get damage like this anywhere else. And there's another 26 damage. So that just goes to show like the absolutely ridiculous amount of damage that this build can do. And that's really what I wanted to show off. I want you guys, like, please, if you thought this was cool, go ahead and jump in, buy the game, and check out this build because it's a lot of fun. There's something so cool about like having the fire burst ammunition. And I didn't even really get to show off what I can do when they're standing beside like destructible terrain and stuff like that, where you can essentially blow up their cover as you're shooting them and ignite multiple units on fire and stuff like that. But yeah, this is about all I've got time for. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. Do remember, down in the description, there is a link to the game on the Steam store if you do want to check it out. If you don't worry about it. We will be doing Let's Plays on this channel, so you can check out the game vicariously through me. So yeah, I love you all very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks again to Paradox for sponsoring me for this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!